Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our Leicester Pride celebrations. I am Diya Rattanpal. My pronouns are she, her, they, them. They are written just about there. And I am the Equality and Diversity Executive at Montfort Students Union. So I'm expecting that there's going to be a few new students here or incoming students that might not know exactly what that means. So I'll give you a quick 411 on some of the things that I do, and we'll go really, really speedily for it, just so you guys know who I am. So I was a DMU student. I graduated from law in, oh my God, it was only last year, but it feels so long ago. I graduated from law last year, and then I was really, really, really blessed to be elected as your Equality and Diversity Executive. So that meant I took out to campus streets and I got loads of students kind of on board, spoke to them and kind of told them about the policies and the different things that I wanted to do. I've been really, really lucky in that my entire role is now based on serving the students at De Montfort, and more specifically, making sure that we as a university are looking at all of the equality, diversity and inclusion issues that we have, and also celebrating everything. So it's really, really cool that I'm able to do this. I am a queer person. I am someone who has been really blessed being at this university in that I've been able to come from being really closeted. I came out during my time at university, and now I'm living my best open life. So it's been really, really amazing. And it's just spark up a little conversation about inclusivity and how amazing DMU has been for not only myself, but the LGBTQ plus community and for all the incoming students coming in. And today we're going to be talking about all the fun stuff. We're going to talk about the events that we've had, the events that are coming on, what's to come, and just general inclusivity at DMU. We're going to be joined very, very, very shortly by our guest, Dr. Matthew Jones, who is a reader in cinema, audiences and reception, which is very, very cool. Like, what a cool title. And we'll be talking all things LGBTQ+, which sounds really, really exciting. Thank you for the congratulations, Spark Dialogue. I really appreciate it. If we can welcome Matt on, it would be amazing. And we'll get him to talk about a little bit. Hello, how are you doing?
Hi, you're right.
How are you doing? Happy Pride.
Happy Pride, everyone. I'm doing really, really well, thank you. Yeah, it's a sunny day here in Leicester, so
it is. I am very glad. It's not often that we get to see the sun. But for the audiences at home, is it okay if I ask you to give yourself a little introduction, what you do, and everything about you?
Of course, let me take off my glasses because there's reflection. I think I look a bit like I've got the blue sky in my eyes. So,
absolutely.
So my name's Dr. Matt Jones, as you say. I do have a very cool job title as it happens. I'm a reader in cinema, audiences and reception, which is a complex way of saying that I teach and research film studies at the university. So I joined the MU, oh gosh, I'm dating myself now, about 6 years ago, which I always think of myself as a new staff member, but I have to stop doing that. 6 years is a long enough time. And I joined as a junior.
If you want to be new, you can be new. Who's to say anything?
My baby soft skin, it makes me look new all the time. I wish. Yeah, I joined 6 years ago as a junior academic, as a lecturer. And I've hung around because I like it so much. I think I was listening to your introduction here, and I think I have very, very similar feelings about the university that you did. I'm really, really glad that I wound up here as a staff member rather than as a student. But still, you know, it feels a lot like home. And I think particularly as a gay man as well, like it's been a place where in previous employment at other universities, I've had to keep my sexuality and my work life very, very distant from one another because universities can be very conservative spaces. But at DMU, that's just not been the case. You know, all of my students know that I'm gay. I talk to them about research that I do into kind of queer issues. I talk to them about inclusivity and tolerance and diversity and acceptance. They all knew when I got married in February, and they all knew about my husband. You know, it's a place.
Congratulations!
Thank you. That's really kind of you. Yeah, it's been an interesting year. My husband's American, so I've not seen him since the wedding because of the travel bans and stuff. But hopefully things are improving.
Oh no.
It's
Oh.
fine. Don't worry about it. Things are getting better. But yeah, so it's been nice to be able to be mindful self at work and not to have to worry about maintaining those boundaries between the private and the public. So I've been really grateful for that at DMU. It's meant that over the years, been a number of students who have been struggling with issues around sexuality themselves or around gender identity themselves, who, because of that kind of my presence in the department, I suppose, have felt able to come and talk to me about that. And so I guess it's been really actually lovely to be able to kind of model a professional queer identity to students and to say, look, I know that most of the professional people that we encounter maintain a neutral kind of stance, but it's okay also to be a queer professional. There's nothing wrong with that. It's entirely possible, and it's kind of lovely to be able to bring those things together. So that's me, and that's what I do, and that's how I exist at the university.
Oh, that is so amazing to hear. Matt, you are who I want to be in a few more years when I get that professional title. That's what I'm aiming for, to just be a queer professional, living my best life and not hiding away from anyone. But yeah, you are so right. It's been really cool. I will be very honest. I kind of fell into DMU. I had no idea about the university. I came through clearing and I actually got a call from DMU and I accepted it. And then I went to my mum, have you heard of De Montfort? Where is it? And she's like, oh, Leicester. That was literally how I came to the university. And for me, I was completely closeted. I was kind of thinking, I'm just going to go my whole university life, wait until I get settled and then come out. And within 2 days of being here, I went to Freshers' Fair. I met my girlfriend on the first day of university, and it's been so easy. It's been so fun, and just I've never felt more comfortable. And kudos to DMU. I understand we're doing the DMU stream, but to the people watching backstage, thank you. On a level, it's been really, really cool. So I love to hear that you've had such a similar story. Just love hearing it. So, we are doing this. It is currently Leicester Pride. It is so sad that unfortunately the physical Pride has been cancelled, but it's not going to stop us. It's not going to stop us from celebrating at all. We've had some events that have passed. We've got some events that are upcoming. But just for the people in the chat that have no idea what we have got or going on, last Thursday we had a really, really cool joint Pride quiz with University of Leicester, and it was really cool. We did it on StreamYard as well, and it was hosted by myself and my counterparts at University of Leicester. And unfortunately, although DMU students won 2nd, 3rd and 4th place, number 1 was UOL. So I'm forever bitter about that, and we're going to need a rematch soon. So guys in the comments, make sure you are ready for when we have another quiz. I want to see you guys all there, and we need to just drop UOL down a notch in a friendly, competitive varsity way, not in a horrible way.
They were wholly supportive, mutually beneficial, but yeah, we do need to win that.
Exactly. Yeah. I always say University of Leicester always seems to kind of take us at varsity. So when we get to gay varsity, that's where we should be shining.
Amen.
So literally. But the other things that we've got going on is yesterday we did a Netflix watch party, which was really, really fun. And I got to speak to some brand new students, and we watched Disclosure. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, Matt.
I haven't actually. Tell me about it.
Oh, you haven't? I feel like it's something you should watch. I've been recommending it to everyone this month. I think it's such a good watch. It is a documentary that came out, that was produced by Laverne Cox, who is one of the biggest and most vocal trans activists and actors at the moment. They played Sophia Bursett in Orange is the New Black, if you're more familiar with that. And it's an entire documentary on trans representation in film and TV and the media in general. So it was really, really, really interesting to watch, and I learned so much of it. And given your role, I feel like you would enjoy it. I feel like it would be a good fit for you, so I would have to recommend that you watch it.
Tuesday night viewing, thank you.
Definitely, honestly, definitely worth a watch. And then upcoming is obviously right now we are doing this stream and we are enjoying all the best bits and we're going to talk about everything cool. But later on, our LGBTQ plus representative Thomas is going to be taking over DMU Instagram and talking about his baking competition that we've got going on. So students, staff, if anyone's interested in winning yourselves a DMU hoodie, get your bakes on and send the pictures in, and we'll be judging them at the end of this week. So make sure they're good. I can't bake, so I really should not be a judge, but I am one. So I would just say make sure they're pretty, because that's the only thing I can judge on.
I mean, no one's going to taste them because of these strange COVID times, right? So just make sure they look beautiful, and that'll be enough. Like,
exactly.
Not anything but that.
I'm not going to be able to taste them, so you could do what I did for my food tech A level. I ended up putting salt in the cupcakes, and the teacher never tasted them, so it worked out completely well. Got through it.
The parties, he had a special bread and butter pudding recipe, which was his dessert, and he always ended up putting salt in it instead of sugar, and it was always a disaster. He's a piece of work like that.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Look, quarantine, I feel like, has been the perfect time to kind of everyone's on like the banana bread trend. Everyone is perfecting their bakes. Even on TikTok, all I'm seeing is baking. You know, there's cool people coming. I've got nothing to worry about. I will happily leave the baking to them guys.
So banana bread, just while we're on it, whilst I lived in Rio for a very, very small amount of time, but whilst I was out there, put a layer of caramel in your banana bread before you bake it. Bottom layer banana bread, layer of caramel, banana bread on top. Promise you can't beat it. It's my top tip for anyone baking out there.
Please, I do not bake, but I do eat. And I eat a lot. So if anyone wants to bake one of those, I will happily be a tester for that. Oh, I've also very recently converted to just banoffee in general. I think it is so underrated.
Strongly.
Top tier flavors. Oh, I love it. I'm going to get so carried away and just turn this into an absolute baking thing with my absolute no talent in baking, but I would be involved anyway. But yeah, so other than the takeover today, in 2 days on Thursday, we have a really cool speaker called Sam Parr. He is the inclusivity coordinator at Warwick University, and he will be delivering an interactive lecture or a seminar on inclusive teaching, which I think is a really cool thing, because I think as we start moving into, well, actually, as we kind of get back to university and term times and schools are opening up again, it's really important that we have used the time, the 6 months that we've had to kind of reflect on who we are as students and academics, to kind of put into place everything that we've learned and making sure that we are as respectful and also progressive as possible. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. I hope you guys will join in there. I'd love to see you there, Matt. I think it would be really, really fun. And then finally, we will be kind of completing our baking contest. So we'll be announcing the winner on Friday. But as well as that, we'll be doing another live stream where we will be joined by our LGBTQ plus rep and also the UOL sabbatical officers there. And we'll be talking all things queer and Corona. It's been 6 months that it's been since we've seen each other. And for a lot of students, that can be a really, really hard time. And not just students, I would say any person. I think people are struggling just in general, but especially if you are a closeted student or you are someone who has had to go back to living with your family, or the opposite, and you're now living alone due to it. It's been a really, really tough time. So it will just give us the opportunity for us all to kind of get your pajamas on, get a mug of tea, get your snacks, and we all just have a really, really informal conversation and work out best ways to support each other, which I'm really, really excited for. Have you been to any events yet? Have you got your eye on any events that you're interested in? You have.
I haven't yet this year. I do go every year. This year, gosh, with terms starting soon, and with the rethinking of education in this kind of new environment, I've been doing a lot of work to bring my modules kind of up to the best level that they can be when we're doing kind of this blended in-person and also online teaching mode. So I've been doing a lot of work in the last few days, so I haven't had a chance to get to any events yet. But I am here now, and I am fully on it for the rest of the week. I think I've broken
exactly. Exactly. That's what I was going to say. I mean, you're doing this live stream, which is fantastic. And we thank you so much for being here and joining us and just providing your perspective. And but also, I'm like super glad to hear that what you were just talking about with your work and making your lectures as inclusive as possible, because I think it's so important from a student perspective. I will say it's really important to know that your lecturers and your supervisors and your tutors are doing that extra bit. And for me, I felt the most comfortable when I went into like my gender and law sessions, because I knew that it was a space for me to talk and like just feel like I belonged. And I think that is so important to students nowadays, especially as we're coming in from what is completely unprecedented, and I don't think anyone in the country was expecting this to be happening. So there'll be a lot of confidence lost, and students have to kind of already get back into it and get into the role of things. So I'm super glad to hear, and I thank you for that. I kind of wish I was doing your course now. I possibly will be back to De Montfort. I know, I'm ready. Maybe I should stay here for another few years.
Come to film, we'll have a laugh.
I might just have to come and sit in on some lectures, just in the back, hoodie on.
You're welcome whenever you want.
Oh, thank you. I feel blessed. But I think, I've also got that we, like Leicester Pride just in general, that the physical is gone, and it's been so sad. Like, I'm so gutted. I've gone every year since I've been here. And last year I was super lucky that we got to walk in the parade representing DSU and DMU, and it was super cool. The weather was lovely until it started pouring down with rain all of a sudden, but we got rainbows by the end of it. So what a better way to kind of end off Pride. And it was all worth it with the fairground rides and stuff. But Leicester Pride has been so integral to Leicester City, as well as DMU and DSU. We've been, De Montfort has always been sponsoring it, De Montfort has always been involved, and I love to kind of see that. I think as a university, it is so important for students and staff and the people who just even walk past campus, for them to see where our stance is and how important inclusivity is for us, and how important just being a good person is. And I use that term so loosely because I think it is so imperative. I think we need to be kind of fighting these fights and talking about this and showing our stances, because that's the bare minimum that we can do in these times and days. So it's been really cool. And I think it's really amazing that DMU have been able to set up live streams like this for us to just talk about actually Pride and how important it is. Like, if we're not able to do it in person, at least we can do it virtually. And thank God for the internet. I thank you so much, please. So it's been really cool. But sorry.
No, you're fine. As you were talking, I was thinking about the first year that DMU did DMU Pride, in addition to the city's Pride festivals, which was probably about 3 or 4 years ago now, maybe a little bit more, something like that. We changed all of the flags that are around the campus. You know, on the lampposts there are flags that say DMU. And because the campus is kind of a thoroughfare through the city as well, like a lot of people in the city find themselves walking through campus from time to time. And the university changed all those flags to put rainbows on them, like the rainbow DMU logo, which, firstly, we've got a rainbow DMU logo. That's kind of awesome in and of itself. But then the fact that all those flags were changed, so whenever anyone walked through the centre of Leicester and found themselves on campus, because we're right there in the heart of the city, all of a sudden they were surrounded by rainbows. And it made very clear, very publicly, that the university had taken a stance on LGBT rights, on acceptance, on tolerance, on inclusion, on all those important lovely things, and was being very vocal and very public about it. I remember in my first year at DMU, we went down to Downing Street and presented an award from the university for the inclusion of gay marriage, for the passing of the gay marriage bill. Just as recognition of the fact that that was important to the university, that had been done. And that was my first year at the university, and I thought, gosh, I've landed on my feet here, haven't I? And then the rainbow flags went up, and then DMU Pride happened, and events like this too. And it really does make you think, as a gay man, I've landed in the right place. Like, and you know, hearing you talk earlier about that feeling of kind of, you know, being in the right place, I recognise that very strongly. I think, you know, one of the things that is really important to me this year in particular is that because DMU has taken such a stand on being visibly supportive of the LGBTQ community, it's that move to, you know, being online, at least in part, to not being physically close to one another because of the pandemic. I was really worried that actually that visible support might disappear, because when you're online, you have to go and search these things out. You can't put flags on the campus in a digital form, if you see what I mean. So it's kind of, it's more difficult to make that visible and public. And I think through stuff like this, and through its social media content, the university is doing a really, really good job of still like publicly signalling we support our LGBTQ community. And that,
absolutely,
I think, it's so heartening. It's one of the reasons I really, really do love where I work.
Honestly, I completely relate. And second what you said, it's been so amazing to see how DMU have kind of made that transition from physical to online. And of course, I'm not saying it's perfect. It's never going to be. We're in very unprecedented times here, but the fact that we've been able to do what we've done, it's been so cool. And like seeing a pride page or just a pride timetable has meant so much to me, because last year we weren't able to do this. We would go physically to the pride event, but this year actually it's been nice to stretch it over 10 days of pride, where we've got an event going on every day. De Montfort University are working with Loughborough and University of Leicester, and they've got talks on every day. They've got researchers coming in, and it's a really, really cool vibe. And it's nice to kind of click on the website and see, oh my god, there is a pride event on, and it's not just one, there's multiple. Oh, I can't go to this one, but I can go to that one. Oh, it's been recorded, I can watch it later. It's been done really, really well, and that visual representation is so important. I think even my job in itself is a testament to it. My role didn't exist 2 years ago. I am the first ever equality and diversity executive that the university has ever seen, and it's been so cool just to kind of have that role be made for us to recognize that actually, as a university, we want to make sure that we are uplifting all of our students regardless of their background, and also making sure that we're helping the students that are underrepresented and usually aren't seen in the mainstream. And we're making a very conscious effort. I've been really lucky that I've been elected in for another year, which is why I'm here. And it's been so cool. I think what a legacy to kind of leave behind is just this immense amount of pride for DMU pride. Like that's all it is. So it's been really, really, really amazing. I have to ask though, I am talking very solely from a student perspective, because that's the only kind of side I've been on. And although I am technically a staff member here, I'm still here to kind of represent the students and reflect the students' view and all of that good stuff. What's it like from a staff perspective? How do you find kind of all of this? And I know you've touched upon it a little bit, but just even your journey here. And I know we've got an LGBTQ plus staff network, which I am part of, and it's very, very cool. But tell me about your perspective and just the general academic side of it all.
Yeah, I think the staff network is a really, really good example, I think, of the ways in which the university has taken that commitment and not just used it to kind of support students, but also support staff members too. So we have a group of us who meet up periodically a few times a year, and it's fairly social, you know, it's a chance to have a cup of tea and a good natter, but also we discuss not only kind of matters around the university and the LGBTQ community, but also kind of research that's going on in those areas, kind of events that researchers are putting on in those fields. It's a really kind of interesting space to just bring out really any aspect of being a queer staff member at the university, and the ways in which kind of we want to think about our position at the university, and also the position of the work that we do at the university. So, you know, the research we do, the teaching that we do, and so forth. That's really kind of a good group, I think. You know, it's been a really interesting group, but it's also kind of, it plugs into a range of initiatives across the university, like, for instance, DMU Pride, but also kind of events that you wouldn't think of necessarily as being LGBTQ focused, but we provide kind of a consultation point within the university where if ever anything's going on that might touch on an LGBTQ area, then the university can come to us for advice, steerance, guidance, just suggestions in general about how to make things open, accessible, and how to kind of celebrate the LGBTQ presence where we can within the university. So it's a really, really positive force. But I think also there's just been a range of different opportunities for me to do stuff that kind of falls outside of my job role, but is just interesting and exciting for me to be involved in. So I remember a few years ago, at the first DMU Pride, I believe it was, the university invited in a number of Russian students who, of course, Russia is perhaps not as open and tolerant and accepting as DMU and hopefully the UK is. Around LGBTQ issues. So they'd invited in a number of students who kind of found themselves working within an oppressive environment as queer people. And they did kind of a public event where these students spoke about their experiences, about what it's like growing up as gay people or as queer people in Russia right now. They made links with LGBTQ organisations in the UK. They made links with us as staff members, so that we can offer career advice or steering through the disciplines. It was just a really positive kind of rewarding event that then led to the launching of an LGBTQ scholarship at the university, which goes to, I believe it's still in action, it goes to people from countries where being a queer person is perhaps not as accepted as it is in the UK, who want to do research or learning in that sort of area, and helps bring them over to the UK so they can see kind of how a tolerant, accepting university operates, and how that can be taken perhaps back to their home countries to make things better. So it's kind of an activist scholarship approach that was taken there by the university, which I'm so proud of having been involved in that event with the Russian students a few years ago now, and then the stuff that the university has used that as a springboard to launch thereafter. I think as a staff member, it's been an opportunity not only to kind of, as I was talking about earlier, bring my own kind of personal identity into dialogue with my professional identity too, and to kind of make myself available to LGBTQ students who want to talk about issues specifically with someone who has been there, which has been something that I've really valued in my relationship with my students. But also to get involved in stuff outside of one's own area or tangentially connected to one's area that just brings, I know that sense of DMU is a place where you can be proud of your identity. It brings it out into the open once more. Those are some of the things that I've really valued and really proud of in my kind of journey through being a staff member here.
That is so cool, and I love that you mentioned the LGBTQ plus scholarship.
Yeah.
I never knew where it stemmed from, but last year I was on the panel selecting the students who were going to be awarded that, and it was so cool, and it was so empowering to just read their applications and just to kind of see where students had come from and how important it meant to them, and why DMU was their reason, what was their kind of option and their chance to be free and do all this amazing stuff. So it's been so cool. And this year we've had the EDI scholarship again, and again I was selecting students, and I could only just sit there and just feel so lucky to kind of be part of this community, and how privileged I've been that actually I've been on the lucky end, and although I've still had to do the bits and bobs of the coming out and the this, and we'll always get that stick for it, but there are students out there who are struggling so much, and DMU was their kind of safe haven, and that just meant a world to me. It was so phenomenal to see that, and I can't believe where it started. It's so cool. Learn something new every day. So I really love that, and I've loved the impact that DMU has had on Pride and who you and I are as people now, which I say it a lot. It is cool. But it's just one of those things. I think it's really important that we carry on doing this, and I'm really excited for even the fact that we celebrate Pride History Month. Not many other universities do that, and for those of you guys that don't know, Pride History Month is all of February. It's when we as De Montfort spend 28 days completely celebrating everything LGBTQ plus. Last year, I was super lucky to host a drag event with the fantastic Vinegar Strokes from Drag Race UK, if anyone knows who that is, and loads of other local queens who were actually alumni of DMU, and just queens in Leicester. So it was a really cool event. We had a few hundred students and staff and public there. So it was really big. And I love that De Montfort will do that every year, in that we make the stand and we do something so visible and so present, especially when Pride is in September. There's a lot of students that haven't started yet. And if you have started, you're going through those periods of nervousness and just trying to find your footing, which every student will have, regardless of your background. It's all the teething problems. I was petrified for the first month of university, and it's just a path that we all have to take. And I'm really sorry, but know that the SU and staff are always there for you, but it's always going to be nerve-wracking. So for us to kind of have that additional month in February as well is so important. And you're so right in that actually we have like this entire team where when DMU have this idea or have this thought, they'll always come in and speak to us to get that LGBTQ plus perspective, which is really nice. It's nice to know that your thoughts and your opinions are valued. Because as a queer person, it's not something that happens everywhere. So it's one of those places where actually I feel so comfortable and I do feel at home here. So I'm so glad. Let's talk about the teaching aspect. Again, you touched on it a bit earlier in terms of how you're making your classes, and I said we're going to be hosting a seminar soon, but we've been really lucky, or that we've been awarded the Inclusivity Award earlier in 2020. We have been in, I think it's the top 50 of Stonewall universities, or Stonewall working places. I will ask Adam, who is backstage, for us to kind of find out the precise detail, and then I can make sure I drop it at the end. But we've done really well. De Montfort is recognised for its inclusive teaching. So from an academic perspective, how do you go about it? I know you said you've actually been working on it quite recently. So what does inclusive teaching mean to you, and what's your take on it?
Yeah, well, there's a whole range of different things that mean to us as staff members, I suppose. There's a big project away from kind of LGBTQ stuff, or on the way back. You'll just bear with me for a moment. So away from LGBTQ stuff, there's a big project on the go at the moment at DMU called Decolonising the Curriculum, which is all about how we think about and talk about race within, race and colonial history, I suppose, within all sorts of different disciplines. So we're doing things at the moment like looking at our reading lists and saying, how many authors of colour are there on my reading list? Because for a long time.
That makes me so happy to hear, because as a student representative sitting on those panels validating courses, one of the questions I will always ask is, I would like to see your reading list and I want to see how many people of colour are on there. So, 10 out of 10 from me, Matt.
Good. It's making me very happy too, to know that someone's kind of hearing what we're doing. That's lovely. Thank you. But so we're looking at those reading lists and saying, for hundreds of years, academia was a very kind of white area of work, and now that we're diversifying, the university has become this kind of lovely pluralistic open space, and not just our university, but the university as a concept has become much more diverse. Although I'd argue DMU is one of the most diverse universities I've ever encountered. But now that that's true, and we have different voices coming through scholarship, and we have for some time now, there really is no excuse for the reading list only to reflect one set of opinions. So we're looking very closely at who writes the work that we cite. How can we bring in a more diverse range of voices into the literature that we give to our students? On film studies specifically, how do we make sure that, given that a lot of the films that our students watch are from Hollywood, because that's a lot of the films that we all watch, how do we make sure that when Hollywood is often a white-dominated system, which it is, how do we make sure that black films or films by black filmmakers are coming through? How do we make sure that we've got space in the curriculum for Latin American cinema, for East Asian cinema, for South Asian cinema, you know, for African cinemas too? So it's not just about kind of scholarship, it's also about the texts that we teach, the films that we teach, or I suppose in, you know, our colleagues in art history, about the art histories that they teach, all sorts of range of different kind of ways of thinking about decolonisation within the university. And so it's been a real privilege to be a part of that. And it fits within a broader range of questions that we're asking. So I've been asking the questions within my department: how many times do we screen films by queer filmmakers? How many times do we screen films with queer characters in? Do we have discussions about queer identity within cinema? Is that part of our curriculum? If it isn't, then okay, why is it not? Is that an accident? Is it just that we didn't think of that? Or is it because actually, you know, there are other things that need talking about on the curriculum, and that gets put into a master's degree, or it gets dealt with kind of outside of the curriculum? But rather than just kind of stumbling into a position where minority identities aren't discussed within the curriculum, it's often a case of just asking yourself the question: how do we get to this place, and what can we do about it? Does something need doing about it? Often the answer to does something need doing about it is, of course, yes, of course it does. And so we then take action. Sometimes it's a case of that's something that's handled elsewhere, and so it's not necessary on this course. But at least then you make that conscious decision around the content of your module, rather than it just being an accident that certain voices are excluded. And so, yeah, we've been doing a lot of that thinking through on really all of our modules. We've also been thinking about, you know, other issues around accessibility, particularly in this time of digital accessibility, where a portion of our teaching at least will be online. So we've been thinking about what does it mean to be accessible in that environment? Does the university need to be providing particular equipment, perhaps? Is it accessible for us as staff members to make our teaching available online? And then the teaching that we do make available, is that accessible for students? So we've been looking at things like making our lectures available a full week or more before the discussions around them, so that students who need more time to digest that material can have that time. There's no problem with that. We do things like making our lecture slides available in advance and in an editable format, so you can change the colours of them in case that helps you read them. All those sorts of accessibility issues they're very essential to what we do. So I think that kind of LGBTQ plus component of it, around thinking through kind of where is queer identity in our modules, where is queer identity in our course, and where can we enhance its presence within our course, and where is it, I suppose, necessary to enhance its presence within our course. That sits within this broader spectrum of thinking about accessibility from racial dimensions, from disability dimensions, from different learning styles. So it's just part of that kind of routine of thinking about accessibility. And I love that DMU is a place where that is routine, and it's built into our day-to-day and our annual cycle of managing our degree programs. It's not something that someone comes up to you and goes, hey, have you thought about diversity in your program? Because we're always thinking about it all the time. And I love working in a place where that is just how we operate. It's not special, it's just part of the course at DMU. And that's exactly how it should be.
But honestly, the entire time you're talking, I've just been like nodding along. My partner is beside me off camera. She's been nodding along. I think you've just recruited 2 new students onto your course. See you in 2021. Honestly, everything that you have said there is, you've completely hit the nail on the head. I think from an EDI perspective and an exec perspective where I'm from, that is exactly what I as a young queer student of color I'm looking for, and it's so heartwarming, and it's so important to just kind of hear that. I think a lot of the times people forget that actually we live in a very intersectional world, and intersectionality exists. However much you think pride is an issue, pride will be it's a lot harder to be a queer person of color. It's a lot harder to be a Black trans woman in the world that we are currently living in. And it's our duty to, as the most privileged, I myself as a South Asian, I'm viewed as the model minority. And that in itself is a privilege. I don't like having it, but it's a privilege to have. And we need to be using our platforms to kind of make sure that we are catering to the entire community and making sure that every student is feeling seen and represented and actually feels like they can see themselves back on the screen or in the books. It's in the same way. Last year, the first ever Bollywood movie came out featuring a gay relationship.
Really?
And it did. And I went to the cinema, and it was a lesbian storyline. It was two women, and one of the women was from northern India, Punjab, which is where I'm from. And I remember just sitting in the cinema, and during the interval, I think I sobbed for like 45 minutes. And I know for a fact that I missed most of the movie, but I was just sobbing, and I couldn't stop because it was so empowering and amazing to kind of just see, like, what, a story similar to mine is being shown on a massive screen in IMAX. And it's so important. And it's the same reason I tell all the students that I meet to kind of watch it, and I'm always like, oh, make sure you watch it. And I've got my other execs having watched it as well, and they said it's a great movie. But it's in the same way for reading lists. It when I did law, and loads of my cases were notoriously white. We could just see Smith, Jones, David, blah blah blah, Joe Bloggs. And then one time I saw the name Singh, and I was like, wow, that is an Indian name. And that case has always remained in my head. Do not ask me to repeat it back to you, though, because it's not remained in my head that well. But it's just so important. So I'm so glad that the work you're doing is, I have to say, is so appreciated, and it will be appreciated by all the students coming in. And thank you for allowing us to be seen and to feel part of the community, which is so important. And I'm glad that you're doing this, and so many other lecturers I know are doing this. I think last year, before we went into lockdown and stuff, we had Trans Day of Visibility, and one of those days included our previous LGBTQ plus rep doing a whole presentation on pronouns and what it means and how important it is. And one of the things that I was never expecting were lecturers to turn up. I thought it would be a student-only event, and we were expecting maybe around 20 to 30 people just in general. We weren't expecting it to be a big event. We had at least 15 academics there in that room, and we were just taken aback. And we had academics coming to ask us, being like, so what are your perspectives on how we should deal with this and why pronouns are important? And that's always the reason I kind of leave mine there. It's so amazing to know that our DMU lecturers are actually carrying and making that effort of just asking what your pronouns are and making sure that it is important and it is kind of incorporated in the register and changing the register. And DSU have been handing out like pronoun badges where you just get a little badge and you can have a he, him, a she, her, a they, them, or you can have a blank and fill in your own, whatever you feel comfortable with. It's the reason that we do kind of the sunflower lanyards to ensure that if you are a disabled student and it's not something that you want to be confronted on or you want to always talk about it, you've got a lanyard, you've got a symbol, and everyone on campus, staff, academic, professional services, students, should know what it means and will never have to kind of question you and feel like you don't belong, because you do, and you should know from the offset that you do. So honestly, thank you so much for everything that you're doing. It means so much. We are nearing the end of this live stream, so I just want to pop in just a quick message to everyone. If you do have any questions for either myself, Matt, or just about DMU in general, please make sure you leave them, and then we'll answer them in the final few minutes. But yeah, it was just more questions on the importance of Pride, I guess, is what the one thing we've not touched upon is actually we've spoken about the representation and the celebration, but actually also remembering Pride and its history. This is something that it came from a Black trans woman throwing a brick at a gay club, because even then, back then, they were being subjugated within their own community. You know, Pride started off as a riot, it started off as a fight, it started off as protest. And I think we need to remember kind of where our roots come from and how we've been able to progress so far, and especially in the light of Black Lives Matter and these protests, is actually this is exactly the way we started off, and this is how we have to continue. People are not protesting for the sake of protesting. They're protesting because how many more years do you go falling under the radar? How many more years do you go being silenced? So I'd love to hear your take as an academic. And DMU recently released a response where they were in full support of Black Lives Matter, and they actually went one step further and turned a mirror on themselves and ensured that they were going to do better and be better. And I'll be holding them to account. It's something that we will be doing together. But just your perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, so gosh, when was it? However long ago it was that Moonlight was released, whenever that came about. During that year's DMU Pride, I was asked to do an introduction to that film, which is a film I love. I adore Moonlight. But it really kind of opened my eyes to the ways in which intersectionality plays out in particularly the Black queer community, which was something I have to admit I hadn't done a whole lot of thinking about before. But that movie really kind of touched me and made me think, no, actually, there's a lot here that you're not taking into account that you need to think through. Like, as you were saying earlier, I occupy a privileged space as a white man within the queer community, and therefore the onus is on me to kind of think through other ways in which intersectionality plays out in other experiences within my own communities. And so since then, I've taken a really keen interest in intersectionality and the ways in which it operates. And so, yeah, I mean, this summer I've been absolutely fascinated by the Black Lives Matter protests. I think that, it's about time, it really is about time. Seeing the violence in America and looking on with horror at that, I'm really glad that sense of protest spread and made its way over here, because I do think that there's really important questions that we have to ask in Britain about all of this. So I was at the Black Lives Matter protests in Leicester, even during the height of lockdown, when perhaps we weren't really supposed to be out, we still went. Social distance, we wore our masks, but still.
I was there too, don't worry, I was there too. I think it's so important.
Yeah, I think as long as people stay safe, they stay socially distanced, they wear their masks, those voices do still have to be heard, and the pandemic shouldn't silence that protest. It shouldn't be used as an excuse to silence that protest. So I think increasingly, it began, of course, because I teach film studies, and so I was invited to watch Moonlight, and so I got thinking about these issues. As I said, I should have been thinking about them before, that's on me, but still. And then, now that this has kind of become a core discourse in our society over the last kind of 6 months, and particularly with the protests, I think it's opened up space for that learning that I've been doing over my time at DMU to kind of come out of an academic perspective into an activist perspective. And so I find myself at protests, I find myself kind of doing what I can, speaking up, using that kind of privilege that we talked about in order to amplify voices that are not my own and that come from more marginalised backgrounds. And so, I think scholarship is great, but scholarship is only useful if you're using it to do something. And I think we should all really be thinking about, both as students and as staff, how does what we learn play into what we know about the world, and how does what we know about the world play into ways in which we can think about changing the world? And so, I've been kind of really glad to be involved in all of this stuff over the summer, as much as it's been possible during lockdown, but also I'm really excited to bring all that back to campus and to open up discussions with my students about identity and about all of our places within not just the community of the country, but also the smaller communities that we all operate in.
Amazing. Honestly, it's so amazing to hear everything that you're saying. I completely echo. And from a student perspective, I think that's exactly what we need. I think we need to be given the opportunity to be having these discussions. It's been a long time since we've seen other human faces. It's been so long. So I think just for us to kind of start having these conversations again, and however much people have thought it's died down, it's not. It's that fire still remains in, I think, every student's heart, every person, knowing what is going on in this world and how much more we have to do. And using your platform, I think you mentioned in there, I think it's so important, and I thank you for using your platform. I thank DMU for even giving us a platform here to talk about these issues, because I know for a fact there will be universities, there will be other institutions that would never allow this type of discussion to happen. For them to give a platform to a young queer female person of color, I thank you. Like, it's really, really important that we do this. I would have never, 2 years ago, I would have never pictured myself doing anything publicly like this. I never would have spoken out, but I think it's so important to, and I think it's important for people like me to see people like me. So it's been really, really cool. It's been absolutely amazing kind of chatting to you and learning about all this, and also bringing up the conversation that we as individuals, as a university, as institutions, as communities, we always need to make sure we are constantly learning and constantly doing better. So I thank you so much for bringing it up. Before I end this though and ask you to do your goodbyes and say thank you to you, Adam has very lovingly in the backstage has said DMU was placed 40th on this year's list, and it is the 5th year running that the university has been placed in the top 100, which is amazing. 5 years of that. I hope it carries on every single year, and it just means that as a university we are doing well, we are doing what we're meant to be doing, and we will always strive to be more, to do more. I think that comes with the package, and that comes with being in a university. But just thank you both DMU and to you, Matt. I think everything that you have contributed today has been so important, and I think what you've said needs to be heard by students and other academics alike. And I think if every academic was like you, I think the world would be a much better place, and I think students would be living their best lives. So thank you so much.
You flattering you. Thank you. That's really kind of you to say. And thank you for having me, and thank you for your contribution too. It's always so interesting to hear about the really good work that the Students' Union is doing to filter into this, to support us in the work that we're doing. Because I think, it would be quite difficult to do some of this work if it weren't for the fact that our students were having those conversations with you guys too.
Absolutely.
And the support side of the institution were mirroring what we were doing too. So I'm always incredibly grateful for the work that you guys do, but I'm particularly grateful for you having me on today so I can talk about it. It's been a real pleasure hearing about what you do. But
the pleasure has been all ours, honestly.
Thank you for giving me the space as well. It's really very kind of you.
Well, thank you again. And thank you to everyone who's been watching on Facebook, on YouTube, on StreamYard. We really, really appreciate the fact that you guys have taken an hour out to listen to us ramble and give our perspectives. And just to kind of end it off, any incoming students, welcome. Any returning students, hey, we've missed you. And just to make sure that you guys get in touch with the Students' Union, make sure you know I am always a friendly face on campus. If you ever see me, say hi. If you've got any questions, make sure you can send me a DM, Instagram, email, whatever you want. It's just my name, Diya Rattanpal. You'll find me on the SU website. And if you do have any queries whatsoever, DSU and DMU will always be there to help you. So thank you guys so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. See you guys all soon.
Thanks, guys. Ta-ta.
Bye.